Police officer shot in the line of duty. Murdered and maimed.
Ultimately, I have no feeling in my left leg from the knee down.
By parolees.
At what cost do we keep giving them chances?
And communities and families at risk.
He had his knife above me, telling me he was going to kill me.
Bang, 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 bang. I see cops coming from every direction.
We hit the streets with cops to track the worst offenders.
Our families that's our lives. What else are we here for?
Tonight, KSL 5 exposes the breaks dangerous parolees are getting.
What's your response to those allegations?
And looks at solutions to make our community safer. And what you're looking at right here are just some of the parolees we've reported on in the past few weeks, from high-speed pursuits to shootings, stabbings, even homicide. So, how many chances do these guys get?
Almost 18,000 criminals are on parole or probation right now in Utah. To put that into context, that's about the population of Farmington. Dave?
These folks are supposed to follow strict rules, but are they? KSL investigator Debbie Dujanovic did some digging for us, some surprising findings.
Dave, some were caught using drugs, running from custody, committing crimes. Well, maybe you think parolees who repeatedly break our laws ought to be shipped back to prison. But I found when it comes to repeat offenders, or what the prison calls recidivism, the Utah Department of Corrections does not operate that way.
It almost sounds like that night was like a war zone out here.
It was.
West Valley City Police Officer Michael McPhee and his partner.
During the pursuit, he shot several rounds out of his vehicle.
Shot and injured.
It came in here and then out my inner thigh.
By a parolee wanted for robbery. He had to leave the job he loved because of his injuries.
At what cost do we keep giving them chances?
He feels the correction system's soft stance on parolees puts officer and public safety at risk.
It's definitely broken.
Did you feel like the system was becoming too lax and lenient?
I spoke to numerous adult probation and parole agents who are fed up.
You could literally have someone test positive for drugs 10 to 15 times before they're allowed to even be sent back.
It's been going on a long time. Here's a survey of corrections employees from 2010. Agents protested then that things had become offender-friendly, and they felt added pressure from administration to not return parolees to prison.
Talk to me about the waiver.
Here's another big concern for agents. This waiver. A parolee absconds, is tracked down, then gets to sign it.
Like a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Agents say by signing, there's a high likelihood the offender would avoid prison and get rubber-stamped right back to a halfway house. Agents explain these practices can artificially lower the prison's recidivism rate and give the appearance that parole is working.
You don't believe that was happening?
Well, I don't.
In the way they describe it. These agents
not
are
the way that they describe it, and I'm not accusing anyone of lying, and I hope you're not accusing me.
No.
of lying.
I'm just wondering if that was a known practice within to reduce recidivism.
It's not a known practice to reduce recidivism.
Roland Cook is the executive director of the Utah Department of Corrections, which oversees AP&P. He says this form only allows a parolee to waive a hearing.
The board still makes the decision based on the information that's provided to them from the arrest and from the violation itself.
But the parole board determines where to place him.
Then people get this confused. They say, well, it sounds like you just want to reduce recidivism and you just want to save money. No, I never want to do that. No one in our agency wants to do that. Our number one concern is public safety.
He explained why not every violation,
if this person's a low-risk offender,
lands parolees back behind bars.
There's evidence out there that shows that by getting them the right programming and giving them opportunities and not just locking them away, that you can help them overcome these addictions. You can help them overcome being involved in crime.
Doesn't seem that's working well for Joseph Hoskins here. Arrested this month by Ogden SWAT for aggravated robbery, his rap sheet shows he's absconded or walked away from halfway houses 5 times. Another example of the pressure seemingly put on parole agents to keep offenders from going back to prison.
If I can keep them out of prison, if I can keep their recidivism numbers down, then that's what the primary goal is for the Department of Corrections. It's not public safety.
And since we began shining a light on this problem a few weeks ago, the Utah Department of Corrections stepped up efforts on the streets. 104 probationers and parolees arrested on warrants. And we've also reported 2 top AP&P administrators have resigned.
It's frustrating to listen to.
It's the cycle.
Yeah. Debbie, thanks. Mike?
Now, Department of Corrections dealing with another revolving door. We're talking about its workforce. From 2013 to 15, the agency lost almost 400 correctional officers and adult probation and parole agents. Now, there are more than 200 job openings for those positions. The prison closing 3 areas, and guards are working overtime to make up the shortfall here. And out on the streets, each parole agent must keep track of as many as 70 parolees. Deanie?
And efforts to silence parole agents about problems we've been reporting on came out on Facebook this weekend. The Fraternal Order of Police posted this to Department of Corrections employees. In part, it reads, discussions with the press prior to working to resolve things internally isn't the most effective way to bring resolutions. And speaking out now may jeopardize a proposed pay hike on Capitol Hill. As you might imagine, the request isn't sitting well with many employees.
It's been a month since thousands of Utahns said goodbye to Officer Doug Barney. He was killed by parole fugitive Corey Henderson. You may think Henderson was let out of prison because of overcrowding, but Mike, you found that's not exactly the case.
Yeah, Dave, what may surprise you here is how quickly the decision was made when there was plenty of room to keep them locked up.
Seems like one of those things we have been hearing in the news for years now. No space, no room, the beds are full. And it's not just the media. A 2014 report by the Utah Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice reiterates the point, stating quite plainly here, Utah's prisons are at capacity.
I've never said that.
Roland Cook is with the Department of Corrections, and if you tool around on their website, you can see Utah's prisons are not at capacity. In fact, they've got well over 600 beds just waiting to be used.
We've been using them a lot, especially over the last 4 weeks, as we start to tweak the system.
So, with apparently hundreds of open beds inside the prison, why are felons like Corey Henderson, someone with multiple drug and weapons charges, paroled 2 times in less than 8 months, getting out early?
We can't lock everyone up forever. Doing so would have tremendous social and economic costs.
I question whether the board errs on the side of caution. Do you believe they do?
Well, it's difficult to make some of those decisions.
So, hoping to shed some light on just how those decisions are made, the KSL investigators requested an audio recording of Corey Henderson's hearing with a parole officer who, after looking at Henderson's criminal history,
well, your prior record doesn't look good.
I understand. Made it seem like the 14 months already served in prison wasn't even close to being long enough.
But yes, I look at yours and I say, holy moly.
I've been there, done that.
You just almost deserve 5 years' time. You understand that?
Within 3.5 minutes of those words, the hearing officer does a 180.
I'm going to recommend that you get a parole. I think we need to watch you. You just make me a little nervous with the guns.
And not only does he recommend parole, but the officer finishes with a statement that could not have been more painfully wrong.
You need another chance. I don't think you're a bad guy trying to go out there killing cops and killing people.
How can his mind change in 3 minutes from you need to be off the streets, staying in prison, to let's give you a second chance? And basically saying, hey, promise me you're not going to deal with any guns. Oh, I promise, no way. Are they that easily influenced?
Well, the decision that the board made was to parole him at that time, which gave him the chance in the community.
A chance. Some will argue he never should have gotten a chance that eventually led to taking an officer's life.
The Department of Corrections has now taken to social media to post its most wanted fugitive. These 5 have served time for crimes like assault, burglary, sex abuse, weapon charges, even murder. Some parolees have been on the run for years. If you've seen any of them, police would like a call.
Outside, police!
Okay, let's get on it quick. If there's a particular individual out there that's been on the run or is causing problems for the community, we will focus on them solely until we can get them apprehended.
The violence that is hitting our communities, the criminals we keep reporting on time after time, who are out on your streets in your neighborhoods. Dave, Deanie?
Who's really out searching for these fugitives?
Nicole Val, our news specialist, is going to show us right now and the steps they're taking to make sure our families stay safe.
We'll walk you on the radio. Good to go? Okay, VFAST stands for the Violent Fugitive Apprehension Strike Team.
This guy's got a pretty serious history.
I got eyes on you.
They're on the hunt for Utah's most dangerous.
Okay, let's get on it quick.
KSL obtained data that reveals a huge number of active warrants on file, 200,000.
Take it easy.
We broke it down even further and found more than 35,000 of those are felonies.
We're going after the worst of the worst.
Daryl Spencer is the head of VFAST, a federally funded task force focused on fugitives.
Right now, statewide, we've got about 65 task force officers participating.
Fugitives is a whole different game.
VFAST is comprised of agents from the U.S. Marshal Service, local and state agencies.
95% of catching fugitives is conducting interviews.
These guys are on call 24/7.
Oftentimes it starts out with computer work, then it takes to the streets, just talking to people, hunting down leads.
They're regularly out 2 to 3 nights or mornings per week.
Day and night, on holidays, wanted on a distribution charge.
I recently joined them for 8 hours as they planned each operation carefully, dialing in on the worst of the worst in our state.
We're expecting the worst, and hopefully it doesn't go that bad.
There's a balcony right here.
200,000 warrants. Keep in mind, not all of them high priority, but this team sifts through the list, constantly asking themselves,
how can we best serve the community? Who needs to be off the streets tonight?
The night I was out, 4 arrests, 4 violent fugitives off your block.
There's never enough of us chasing because there's still a lot of active warrants out there. Still
an overwhelming task.
There's no way that 65 U.S. Marshals and task force officers are going to be able to clean up 200,000. Eventually we'll expand, try and take on more cases, arresting more fugitives.
Yeah, Spencer says he does hope to expand the task force within the coming year. But aside from VFAST, when it comes to these fugitive efforts with different agencies, it's really hit and miss. Some agencies have their own fugitive units, others don't have them at all. So when it really comes to getting these bad guys off the streets, the 65 agents with VFAST, that's about it, guys.
Never-ending job. Nicole, thanks for the insight. Dave?
The governor, lawmakers, and corrections officials have made it clear they want to reduce recidivism at the prison, and they pushed through a plan to make that happen.
Justice Reinvestment Initiative, or JRI, rolled out across Utah as a way to avert prison growth. It's expected to save taxpayers $542 million over the next 20 years.
And the hope would be that would in fact probably have less people behind bars where we actually help improve their lives.
We spend about a year looking into the data.
Ron Gordon oversees JRI and says the focus is on lower-risk, nonviolent offenders.
Justice reinvestment wasn't ever intended to solve every problem in the criminal justice system. It was intended to make a very significant difference by impacting a specific population.
JRI took effect last October. It reduces certain drug crimes from felonies to misdemeanors and cut sentences. Behind bars, inmates can shave their prison stay by earning a GED or completing programs like substance abuse treatment. And it's supposed to help offenders transition back to the community, setting standards for drug and mental health treatment.
The goal is essentially to reduce recidivism.
Gordon says JRI isn't going away, despite the violence that swept through our communities.
The reality is, I haven't seen any evidence at all to suggest that any of these terrible things that have happened recently are the result of the Justice Reinvestment Initiative.
Critics say problems with the JRI are best highlighted by these shiny plastic tokens. May look like child's play to you and me, but under a new incentive matrix, the Department of Corrections is using these to reward offenders who get caught being good. Get this, parolees and probationers can earn these tokens for good behavior, such as showing up on time for an appointment or reporting to their job. Even if an offender has violated parole, agents are instructed by their superiors to find and reward at least 4 positive things the offenders accomplished. Criminals who earn these tokens can trade them for items like water bottles, earbuds, or tire gauges. AP&P sources tell KSL agents and offenders both find these incentives ridiculous.
Public safety, your safety, is our top concern in exposing the issues that we have highlighted tonight. We are already working on several follow-up reports as tips come into our newsroom. We're committed to informing you not only about the problems here, but also the solutions as well.
Dan